When I got home from the hospital, I was told I was never going to walk again. Nothing from the waist down worked. I had no control over my bladder. I had no control over my bowels. I had no control over everything. My pelvis had been crushed dearly. And I mean, I was banged up from head to toe, completely bruised all over and crushed and squished. But the only thing that was broken, like physically broken and destroyed, was my legs from the knees down. My right leg, because I was missing tibia, they cut open my knee, drilled a hole through the two pieces of my tibia, and then bolted it at my ankle and at my knee so that it wouldn't spin. And basically there's a titanium rod that holds those two pieces of my tibia together to this day. So they did that, so now I have a leg and I'm not an amputee. My left leg, they wanted to operate on, and they wanted to surgically attach all the ligaments and tendons back together and make that leg right. Well, my father and my parents being in those fields, they refused. They were like, she's 23 years old. It's very possible her body will heal itself if you stabilize it. If you operate on it and you surgically put those back together, she will never bend her leg ever again. It'll stiffen it, and it'll be really messed up, and it'll take massive amounts of therapy to maybe possibly, but pretty much you're dealing with a bum knee. So they refused and put their foot down, and that was when my parents basically were like, we want her out of the hospital. Give her the blood transfusion. We're pulling her. We're taking her back to California. We're dealing with it on our own. We don't like you people. So my parents were pissed. So, and the reason they were pissed about that operation, mind you, is because they didn't want my insurance to cover the operation, which basically says it wasn't needed. It was something they wanted to do, and they wanted my parents to pay out of pocket. So, being of my age, and the body does have the ability to heal, my parents are very much into that kind of stuff. So they said, put a brace on it. We want you to relocate her leg. You put a brace on it. We're taking her home, and we're going to see what her body does first, and we'll go from there. So they did that. And they basically said, if you ever do stand up and walk again, you're going to be on a crutch or a cane, and you're not going to do it very well. So you need to be prepared for that. Pretty much you're wheelchair bound, but if you do walk, you're going to suck at it, and it's not going to be attractive. So we went home. I was on bed rest. I had to relearn. For some reason, I couldn't feel the bottoms of my feet. I couldn't wiggle my toes. I couldn't lift my legs. Like, nothing worked from the waist down. It was like, for some reason, nothing was connecting. My brain couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. My legs were broken. But why weren't nerves sending messages? Like, what's going on here? So I called old classmates from the school that I went to where I studied somatic therapies, and I had all sorts of different therapists come in and work on me. I had people that did energy work. I had people that did cranial sacral work combined with energy work. I had just straight massage, did acupuncture, you name it, I did it when it comes to the healing arts to my legs. And eventually one day my toes wiggled, and then from there I had to learn how to control the wiggle of the toes, and then from there bending my feet, and eventually basically from feet up like a toddler I had to learn how to stand upright. And let me tell you, standing upright is not as easy as we make it look. It's really, really hard. And for a long time I walked hunched over, and I looked really retarded. People used to make fun of me. Not people I didn't know, just family, because it was one, we have a sick, twisted humor in the family. If you can't laugh about it, you're gonna cry. So it was kind of like, let's take the gimp out. I did spend 6 months in a wheelchair. I had to relearn how to potty train. My little sister Sarah moved in with me with her daughter, and eventually my son moved back home with me. And while I was doing my own types of therapy, I stopped going to physical therapy because they were really into forcing it, and I didn't feel my body was ready for that. It was too painful, and I didn't like what they were doing, and I was trying to be intuitive and listen to what my body was telling me. So I did, and it took me maybe a year and a half, 2 years before I actually walked normal again. And now to this day, I walk. The only time you can tell is when I'm really, really tired or feeling run down. I limp. Going up and down staircases, it's really obvious there's something wrong with me because I take them very slow, and going downstairs is really hard for me because I don't have a center of gravity, a center of balance in my body, so I'm really wobbly. So that's basically my story. Basically that happened. I ended up in the hospital for a week in Flagstaff, Arizona. That's where they flew me. They flew my son to Kingman, Arizona. Now, when they did that, they sent Donovan to Kingman, Arizona. My ex-husband was contacted. My ex-husband is a douchebag. That's all I can say about that. That's a whole other story for a different time, and that one's too painful to share at the moment.